Dennis, yeah, I'm worried that your dear leader Donald Trump doesn't believe in democracy. He's he said he had a system to put in fake electors. Now you got 61% of Republicans say, screw it, let's just be a Christian nation. Let's establish, basically be run by a Christian mullah, okay? And so do you think Trump wouldn't say, I'm that mullah and we're not having democracy? He'd do that in a second. You think that he cares about the rest of us? A lifelong con man who only cares about his own power and wealth. If you can't see that, Dennis, you're being purposely blind.
Cenk Uygur and Kasparian of the Young Turks had far-right commentator and pundit Dennis Prager on their show, The Young Turks, to engage in a debate. They covered a bunch of different topics. It's a long debate. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can watch it on the Young Turks YouTube channel. I picked out a couple of clips that I thought were particularly interesting. Dennis Prager gets very defensive at times from the pushback from Cenk Uygur and Kasparian, so that makes things really entertaining, in my opinion. Let's check this out.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like you're not in favor of secularism, so I wanted to ask about that. So I never understand what you folks mean when you say we shouldn't be a secular country. Do you think religion should rule us? What do you mean?
I think that we should have a secular government and a religious population, just as the founders did. That's why In God We Trust is one of the three mottos of our country. And we are now seeing the consequences in every area of life of the death of Christianity. And I say this as a religious Jew, the death of the Judeo-Christian value system, the death of the Ten Commandments, and the death of all the things that came with religion, meaning and community and moral absolutes among them. The death of religious values is why we can now say there are more than two sexes, and that we shouldn't call kids boys and girls in schools anymore. We are living in the age of moral and intellectual chaos because of the death of religion.
Okay, so poll just came out today, I think actually. 61% of Republicans say we should be a Christian nation, but don't get them twisted. They're not saying, hey, just be Christian at home. 57% of them, of Republicans, say, no, we know it's unconstitutional. We know that it's not in the Constitution. We can't establish a religion, but we want to do it anyway. 61% say, no, we want it. So that seems to be establishing a religion, Christianity. Do you think 61% of Republicans are wrong?
They didn't say they want to establish a religion. They said they wanted a Christian country. I'd rather have a Christian country than a secular country, and I'm a Jew.
Okay, so help me understand what a Christian country means. Doesn't that mean you establish a religion, Christianity?
No, established. There was never an established religion in the country, and Christians aren't for it. I work with Christians. I know I work more with Christians than with Jews. My synagogue is Jews, but I work with Christians. I'm at churches all the time. I never heard one of them say, let's establish Christianity.
What does it mean?
But Protestants believe deeply in the separation of church and state.
I don't see that at all, and it's not in the poll. 57% said, yeah, we know it's unconstitutional. They mean establish a religion. Now you're trying to make it like that the Republicans don't actually mean that. So what do they mean when they say we want a Christian nation, not like the one that's in the Constitution?
Right. I don't know the constitutional part. This is brand new to me. So I can't comment. I can only tell you that when Christians say.
Dennis Prager says this is brand new to him. Republicans have been trying to make the United States a Christian country or establish the religion of Christianity. However, Dennis Prager wants to split hairs here for a long, long time. So it's not like this just was an idea that they hatched 6 months ago or something. This has been going on for a long time. And Dennis Prager, to me, is really splitting hairs by saying they don't want to establish religion. They want to make the country a Christian. They want to make the United States a Christian country. I don't really, like Cenk Uygur is saying here, I don't really see what the difference is in that. And another strange thing that Dennis Prager says here is that Christianity is dying. Gallup shows that more than 30 million people go to church every week. So that's hardly, or that I think he says Christianity is dead in the country. So 30 plus million people going to church every week. I don't really see that as dead. And then a final point on that, anytime people say they want the country to be Christian or they want religion in schools or whatever, even if we're talking in terms of Christianity, there are so many different forms of Christianity. He talks about Protestantism here. Well, there's also Catholics are Christians. So you have a whole lot of Catholics in the right wing of the Republican of the government right now. J.D. Vance, I believe, is a Catholic. So, whose religion are you going to pick? I know for a fact that a lot of these different sects of Christianity don't get along very well. So I've never understood how that's going to work either.
Say they want a Christian nation. They want a nation that is governed by Christian moral principles and not the moral chaos that we see today. And I am a supporter of that notion.
Governed means the state.
And
but anyway, go ahead, Ann.
I'm sorry, I don't believe in Christ, just for the record. I am not a Christian, and they are not forcing, and they never did force anybody to believe in Christ. Even when they were really in power, they never forced one American to accept Christ. That's a pretty damn good record.
That's because it's not constitutional. You're making it seem like they had the option.
So I want to ask.
Well, wait a minute.
Okay,
wait,
go ahead.
You just said if they have power, you're afraid, correct?
Well, first of all,
Isn't
no,
that
I
the
didn't say
implication
that.
of what
But
you're saying?
no, I didn't say
Okay,
that.
so
But
then I
Dennis,
hear you. Right.
yeah, I'm worried that your dear leader Donald Trump doesn't believe in democracy. He said he had a system to put in fake electors. Now you got 61% of Republicans say, screw it, let's just be a Christian nation. Let's just stop basically be run by a Christian mullah. Okay, and so do you think Trump wouldn't say, I'm that mullah and we're not having democracy? He'd do that in a second. You think that he cares about the rest of us? A lifelong con man who only cares about his own power and wealth. If you can't see that, Dennis, you're being purposely blind.
The man was president for 4 years. He was far more open than Joe Biden and the Democrats are, who are using the FBI to suppress dissent and who are using the New York Times and CNN. This is the least free America has been in its history,
Dennis,
in terms of free speech and freedom of dissent. And it's because of the Democrats and the left. Trump was in office.
Obama had taken classified documents from the White House home with him, and if the federal government with the DOJ gave him multiple chances, multiple opportunities to just return the classified top secret documents, and he didn't do it, and that led to a raid, would you be on this show right now providing cover for Obama? I'm genuinely curious. I want you to give me an answer.
If it were part of a systemic use by a Republican government of suppression of Democrats, I would damn well be on this program saying that.
He had every opportunity to just return the documents, and he refused to do it. No one should be held above the law, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think that should be controversial. I don't care if it's a Democrat. I don't care if it's a leftist. I don't care if it's a Republican. You can't break the law repeatedly and just assume that you're entitled to be treated above the law. Why do you think it's okay to provide cover?
This is a great point here by Anna Kasparian. We know that presidents are above the law in our country, unfortunately, but they shouldn't. And I always, the knots that people like Dennis Prager twist themselves into to defend Donald Trump. Just imagine you work for a company and you take a bunch of files home with you, and then you lose your job and they call you and they say, yeah, you have a bunch of our files. We'd like to get those back. And you just say, nah, I'm not going to return those. Sorry. And I mean, that would be so unimportant compared, the files that somebody would have just from their office job would be so unimportant in comparison to the files that a former president would have. But this guy Donald Trump just felt he was entitled to take those because he was above the law. And in a lot of cases, that's proven to be true. So Anna Kasparian is exactly right about this. And like she points out here, it would be a completely different if Joe Biden or Barack Obama or any Democratic president had done exactly the same things that Donald Trump did, it would be a completely different story from Dennis Prager and other far right wingers like him.
For criminality like that.
Let me tell you what every one of us who is a conservative believes, knows. There are political prisoners in the United States for the first time in American history, and it's because the left is in power, and there is no
political prisoners. Yeah, we have people who broke the law following Donald Trump. They committed multiple laws, and they went to prison over it. Those aren't political prisoners. Those are people who committed crimes and went to prison.
Instance in the history of the world since Vladimir Lenin of the left being in power and allowing dissent. It was liberals in power in the past with Democrats. Today it is leftists. There is a huge difference. I wrote of 32 differences between liberalism and leftism in a column that anyone can find on the internet. I'll give you one example. Leftists believe in all black dormitories like at Columbia University where I went. Liberals do not believe in all black dormitories. There is nothing in common between liberalism and leftism. Leftism is evil, liberalism is honorable. And what we now have is the left doing what it always does, suppress dissent.
You know, he doesn't really have any answer for them on this secular versus Christian country. You know, one thing that I'd like to say also, you know, he talks about the moral decline of the country, and people like these far right people like Dennis Prager, they think the moral decline is people being able to love whoever they want to, and people being able to be openly gay or be trans and all of these things that Dennis Prager hates. He talks about that being the moral decline. But as much as right-wingers like to paint the United States as in that we're in some kind of Mad Max style post-apocalyptic country, violent crime rates are down. We had an uptick around 2020, 2021, because that was a really crazy time with the protests and everything else that was going on. But overall, violent crime is down in the United States. Is that not an evidence that we're not in a moral decline? That there's less violent crime happening? Something has to be going right. But again, Dennis Prager thinks the violent crime is anyone living a life different, a personal life, their life behind closed doors, who they love, who they're in a relationship with, how they dress, how they look. He thinks that's all a moral decline, that everybody doesn't look and act and have the same kind of relationship as him. But in a lot of ways, the country is in a better moral condition than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago, at least in terms of violent crime, which to me shows that there isn't this massive moral decline that Dennis Prager is talking about. But I think that Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian really hit back on him well with these issues with Trump breaking laws and also a Christian versus secular country. But what do you think? Do you think that Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian beat Dennis Prager in this debate, or do you think he held his own and maybe even beat them? Make sure to leave me a comment. I'd like to hear what you have to say about these debates and the other videos on the channel. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe to help the channel grow. It's growing quickly, but I want to continue to have it growing more and more, that I can bring out more content like this. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is Chris on Culture. I will see you in the next video.